Hi, this is Paul Shurin with Impact Data Source. I'm an economist and principal, and today I'm going to talk about our online economic development impact model called Impact DashBoard. First thing I want to do is start off by taking a look at essentially an output or a report that the model can produce. And this is an example of a one-page report for a project. I'll just kind of show you a little bit of where we're heading with all of this. On this left-hand side, we're summarizing the economic impact of this project in terms of the jobs as well as the spin-off, those indirect and induced jobs that might be created from this economic development project, as well as the salaries, the capital investment, and some other items about relating to economic impact. On the right-hand side at the top here, we can see a summary of the fiscal impact. So this is the additional tax revenues and balancing that with some additional costs from the perspective of the city. In this case, over the course of the next 10 years, this project is expected to generate about $400,000 in net benefits. If we look closely, we can even see that this analysis takes into the account a possible tax abatement of about $144,000. If we kind of just scroll down right through the rest of the report here, we can see the benefits and costs over the 10-year period, what that looks like graphically, and even a little bit of an extra analysis on the property tax abatement that's being considered. Let me jump in and actually show you the model and how this all actually comes together for us. This Impact Dashboard is an online model. If you have internet access, you can access our model. So I'm going to log in here with my username and password, and you'll be able to see a list of our projects. So this will be a list of the projects that we've worked on in the past. And if I click on one of these, let's say Project Hello here, I've got a list of the different scenarios that I've run for this. I've gone back and forth and got a couple different options. I'm going to click on the 30 jobs option, which is the scenario we were looking at earlier with that one-page report. Now, inside this scenario, we're going to see a list of our information that goes into the analysis. So on this left-hand side here, we can see we have inputs relating to jobs, salaries, capital investment, those sorts of things. And then on the right-hand side, we're getting a dashboard of the results kind of pulling together on the fly as you're entering that information in. What's the impact of this project from the perspective of the city or even the county or the school district? We can click on any one of those entities and take a look at that information. Now, I'll jump to the report and come back to public support in just a moment. The report here, we've got two different versions of the report. This first one, the summary report, is what we showed in the first example, kind of that one-page high-level summary of what's going on with this project from the perspective of one of the tax districts. In this case, we're most focused on the city. If you did want to produce a report for a county or for a school district, you could do that as well just by making a few selections. The detailed report goes in to kind of a more typical style of a report where it's got a narrative and some more detailed tables. And so we can see what that looks like here as I continue to scroll down. Whereas the one-page report focused on just one tax district, this detailed report is going to provide information for each one of the tax districts entered in the analysis. So here we've got the city, the county, the school district, and some of those other just property taxing districts that we see there. So this is, as I say, going to be printed off and maybe in a 15-page report or so for this detailed one. The summary report is like I mentioned, a one-pager. Now, if we want to configure some of the different kind of public support tools that you might have, that economic developers might have, we can do so on this public support page. And we have a tab for each one of the tax entities. So if you wanted to do a tax abatement for the city and a tax abatement for the county and have those things be maybe evaluated independently, you could do that. So here we're looking at a city property tax abatement, the 100% on the buildings for the first 10 years. We can see that was that value we saw earlier of $144,000. Now, the other type of incentive that we can model is a non-tax incentive. And this is maybe in the case of like an infrastructure grant or some land that you're providing at no cost. You can think of that as the value of the land. So what we would do, let's just consider maybe a $200,000 grant here. And we can think of that incentive as an investment. And that investment, we're going to compare what the return is. And as we think about this, if the city's the one providing the incentive, making the investment, we're going to compare the city's incentive against what the city gets back in net benefits. That's that $400,000 in net benefits over the 10-year period. So as we kind of build that framework together to think of this as an incentive, an investment, we can see that we can calculate a payback period and a rate of return. So in this case, $200,000 incentive is getting getting us paid back in 3.4 years with a 20% rate of return. Now, some of our clients might want to come at this from a different angle and say, well, we might consider an incentive, but we would only go up to 3 years. And so $200,000 obviously is out of the question. So if we do this, we could say, actually, let me specify the payback period. And instead of 3.4 years, we want to do exactly 3 years. In that case, our model can tell us that a 3-year payback period would be equivalent to about $182,000, helping you put some parameters on your incentives. Now, if you go back to the report page, you'll be able to see that information gets included and incorporated into the analysis just as quickly as we did it. There's a lot of data going in the background here as we look at some of these results and see the analysis coming together. I'll just touch on a few of those things and explain how some of it comes together. So if we go back to our scenario info, we kind of skipped a step here where we were able to identify which tax districts were affected, so a user would be able to choose it's this city, it's this county, and so forth. And what we do is we build in all of the information, the tax district or tax rates, other assumptions that are needed to go into our model to produce these results. We do that research and build in all of that information for you. And we also build in these multipliers. So as we talked about those direct as well as the indirect and induced jobs that are being created, we're using multipliers, economic impact multipliers from the Bureau of Economic Analysis to produce those results. And you can select what industry your project is operating in within the model so that you get industry-specific multipliers. And so that's an important key part of the analysis as well. Now, if you need to make some adjustments to some of the assumptions, for example, you want to tweak a tax rate, you could do that. Or let's say that you wanted to look at the analysis maybe over a different period of time, for example, maybe 15 years. You could do that as well by modifying some of these assumptions, which you would have access to. If I go back and now if I want to look at this now, it's a 15-year analysis. Our net benefits are a little bit higher, and that's because we're including a couple additional years. But that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show within the model. The last comments I'll make are, with the model, so this is a model that we developed and we put all the research together and put the data together for you. We're also available to answer questions, so you have support and training throughout the year. Typically the way it works is we'll set up the model and set up a time to do training to show you exactly how your model works. And then throughout the year, as an economic developer is using the model, they may have questions. Either these results seem funny, I don't know why it's so high or why it's so low. We can jump on a go-to-meeting, or we can just maybe talk by phone or email and really dig in and try to find out what's going on. Other situations that come up occasionally would be it's a new type of project that you haven't run before, and you just want to make sure you're entering everything appropriately. And we can help with all those types of questions as well. But thank you for your time. Again, this has been Paul Shuren with Impact Data Source. Thanks.